Eastern Woodland Indians by Julia Balistreri, Ollie, Cyrus, Rachel, Emma, Aiden, and Trent. Here's some pics of our model of longhouses. The clay figure in black is the woman, and the gray is the man, and they both represent population. The longhouse is where the people used to live. The fireplace, as you might see, is where they go every night and sing campfire songs and eat. They lived in the forest where the hunt is strongest. They have trees and bushes all around.
Ceremonies were very important to the Woodland Indian. When something important that needed to be shared, they would start a ceremony. The kings would paint their fate depending on what they had to say. Black meant somebody important died, and purple means new life. When a baby was born, they would do a ceremony between an 11-day ceremony to a 17-day ceremony. The Woodland Indians had lots of beliefs. One of them is that the evil spirit Sooks, that if they did something wrong, the evil spirit would come out from the mountains and give them bad luck for 9 days. Also, there was an evil spirit world that would interact with the real world. The woodland children sometimes interacted with other tribes in their location. The Woodland Indian children were trained at a young age. The girls were trained to be able to cook and harvest. The boys were trained to be hunters and all the methods that they needed to survive. The parents encouraged their children to play games that would help them learn. They started training at the age of 13. It was time for them to be able to make tools and start their traditional beatings that the king wore for important ceremonies that as if they would turn 18. They would get a test to see if they were a true adult by testing all the things that they have learned over the past years.
Most tribes by the Great Lakes ate just rice for food. Tribes also ate eel. The women actually did something else than farming and harvesting, like they harvested corn. They also collected some of the fish, like shellfish, mussels, and lobster.
Women wore skirts made out of dried grass and the animal skins that were left over. Children wore nothing unless in the winter they were wrapped up in a weaving made out of leftover scraps of animal fur or dried grass. Men wore lots of piercings that were made out of bear teeth and seal teeth. They were leggings that were knitted by hand from the woman. Some men wore things that the woman made, but they most often wore animal skins.
The hunting methods. The eastern woodlands used a bow and arrow, and sometimes they wore deer skins to sneak up on deer. They wore snowshoes made from hides and other materials. Hunting. When no food was found, they would chew on their clothes. What they hunted. They hunted raccoons, deer, squirrel, whale, seal, fish, moose, caribou, bear, and beaver. The most important thing they hunted was the white-tailed deer. They hunted fish in the summer and moved to follow the things they hunted in the winter and autumn.
The Eastern Woodlands used to live in North and South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Illinois, Minnesota, and all of Western America.
Eastern Woodland Shelter. Woodland tribes lived in wigwams and longhouses. Wigwams are round wooden frame structures covered in bark. Only one family lived in a wigwam. Longhouses are made the same way as wigwams, except they are rectangular instead of round. They have a long hallway with rooms on both sides. Several families shared a longhouse. Eastern Woodlands Folktales. The Eastern Woodlands have many folk tales, but two of the most interesting ones are the Invisible Warrior and the Wise Owl. The Invisible Warrior is an Indian Cinderella story about an invisible warrior who goes out to find a young maiden who can see him so he can marry her. The Wise Owl is about a not-so-smart and patient owl who wants wisdom, so he goes out to the Everything Maker. The Everything maker is busy, so he can't help the owl, so he scares him. And those are some of the woodland folktales.
The Woodlands tribe lived on the eastern side of the U.S. These tribes were skilled hunters and builders. They lived in longhouses and wigwams. These tribes also had a lot of folk tales and beliefs. These Indians had an advanced way of life to keep and adapted to their environment in many ways.